I need a game to play. Okay, let's see here. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot? Like that's ever gonna happen. Let's see here. Yeah, sure, why not?
First-person shooters, am I right? One moment, they're making headlines for being the hot new things for politicians to blame gun violence on. The next, they're making headlines for just being unfinished or overall bad games.
Call of Duty Vanguard gets a 3 out of 5.
Now, my personal track record with first-person shooters is iffy. Growing up throughout the 2010s into today as a rising senior in high school, I've seen all the cool kids talk about the new Call of Duty or Battlefield and stuff like that, but I personally couldn't get into them. Well, that was until 2016 rolled around. Overwatch was the hot new FPS game on the scene, and I remember a friend gifted it to me on Xbox. I remember immediately falling in love with it. Now, I wasn't good at the game, in fact I was terrible, my KD ratio was horrendous, but I fell in love with everything else in the game. The maps, the lore, and especially the characters. The community was okay too, I guess. There was overwhelming toxicity, but there were some moments where I met some genuinely awesome people, including this one group that I would always play with and do voice impressions on the local voice chat. It was like a gateway into me doing voice acting today. Awarded Tracer and Parzival Zero, if you guys ever come across this video, shout out to you guys, because you guys genuinely got me into voice acting and I couldn't be more thankful. Now, I don't play the game anymore though, and I probably won't even touch it for the near future due to Blizzard being Blizzard. Plus, I'm afraid my Xbox will explode if I even turn it on. It's gathered so much dust to the point where if I even turn it on, I don't think it'll go well.
Oh.
What is there to say about Doom that already hasn't been said? When it came out in December 1993, it was an immediate hit. Despite only having a handful of people working on it, the game is a staple of first-person shooters, and just video games in general. With its revolutionary new engine provided by John Carmack, excellent game design by Tom Hall, Sandy Peterson, and John Romero, the iconic art by Adrian Carmack, John Carmack's brother, and Kevin Cloud, and the perfect one-of-a-kind soundtrack by Bobby Prince. With such an amazing team behind it, the game was bound to be a hit. I mean, the game was ported to, what, every console known to man after it came out? I'm not kidding. They made this game run on whatever they could, whenever they could. I'm talking SNES. I'm talking Sega 32X. I'm talking Game Boy Advance. Yes, that's a real thing. Trust me. Now, I've played Doom on a couple of platforms. I first played it on PC via Linux. I then bought the Switch ports of 1 and 2 when they were on sale, and then later got the PS4 ports of 1, 2, and 64 when they were on sale as well. Now, for this video in specific, I did play the PS4 port of Doom, so my opinion is going to be different from, say, someone who's only played the PC version before. Doom is usually considered the first modern FPS game, but that's not entirely true, as Wolfenstein 3D came out a year prior, and was also developed by id. If you really think about it, id has had a huge hand in the games industry, starting with Wolfenstein 3D in 1992, utilizing a new type of raycasting made by Big John. Then going into Doom in 93, debuting the new id Tech 1 engine, which made the level layout less angular and allowed the walls of the map to be any shape and size they wanted to. And then going into Quake in 1996, which is considered the first true 3D FPS. Doom is cut up into 4 parts, which they refer to as episodes. I've never seen an episode of anything that's cut up into other mini-segments, but alright. Well, except Attack of the Clones, but that's it.
I don't like sand.
There's Episode 1, Knee Deep in the Dead, Episode 2, The Shores of Hell, Episode 3, Inferno, which was the original ending of the game, and Episode 4, A New Hope. I mean Thy Flesh Consumed, which wasn't in the original release of Doom, but was added into the Ultimate Doom re-release in 1995 as a little precursor to Doom 2. The episode format is actually really nice. At the end of each map, you get a results screen that shows you your stats, like your time, how many enemies you killed, etc. And at the end of each episode, you get text that describes what happens after the final map.
Now I'm going to talk about music because I really couldn't think of a segue into this.
Doom music is considered to be in a league of its own at this point. Composed by Bobby Prince, it was heavily inspired by the metal music of the 80s and 90s, like Metallica, Alice in Chains, Pantera, and others. And it really shows, all the way down to some riffs being near identical. The soundtrack is an absolute love letter to metalheads everywhere, new and old. Although, other than E1 M1, I don't think much of the soundtrack has held up all that much. Don't get me wrong, I still love the soundtrack to death, but when compared to something like, say, Doom 2016, I don't think many of the tracks have aged all that well. Maybe that's just because I think Mick Gordon's a musical genius. Rip and tear, Mick. Rip and tear. Alright, enough about music. Let's get into some damn gameplay. The gameplay is truly a sight to behold. A sign of the times, if you will. I think the core gameplay has aged gracefully, like a fine wine. Wine isn't the first thing that comes to mind when talking about a game where you paint the walls red with blood, brains, and some third thing probably. But subverting expectations is what I do best. Just like how the shooting is the best part of Doom. Now, the shooting has aged weirdly, but it's still fun and still feels good to control. Now, the game doesn't let you look up or down because of how the game is built. The game isn't true 3D, it's considered 2.5D, kinda like Octopath Traveler, but more primitive. But without the ability of looking up and down, I'd say it makes aiming kinda easier. When you aim, it doesn't matter how high or low the enemy is, it just matters if the hitbox is aligned with your gun. Now, shooting isn't the only way to attack enemies in this game, despite the wide array of guns at your disposal. You have some melee weapons at your disposal as well, like your fist, which comes decorated with a spiked brass knuckle, the soul cube, which actually isn't in this game, it's in Doom 3, but still, it's funny, and the mother chainsaw, baby! Woo! Yeah! One hit kill! Go rip and tear! Yeah! Anyway, where was I? Oh right, the weaponry. Doom Guy has a vast array of weapons at his disposal throughout the game. In my opinion, the amount of weaponry keeps the game from going stale. The level design is genius as well. In Doom, you have multiple ways of going about. You can go linear, going from point A to point B without any needless detours, or you can go through the multiple pathways placed throughout every map, riddled with enemies, ammo, and, if you're a good little egg, maybe you'll find a secret or two, like getting the chainsaw early. Now, it is easy to get lost within the levels if you don't know them inside and out. My co-writer had trouble with level 4 of Knee Deep in the Dead specifically, saying,
These stupid metal hallways. I want to eat the little bitch floppy disk responsible for this nightmare. This is nothing like Chex Quest.
Beyond that, the branching paths the levels provide are really special as it opens up for creative ways to beat each map, as well as, you guessed it, speedrunning.
I would really prefer if you would be quiet.
Yes, believe it or not, Doom was basically the start of modern speedrunning. With the original release of Doom, there was an option to save a demo of your gameplay into a .lmp or lump file. Players would use this feature to show off secrets, show off tricks, or to show how fast they could complete a level in Doom. This would evolve, however, when it released Quake, with it spawning Quake Done Quick, which eventually evolved into Games Done Quick, the livestream event hosted for charity every year. Now, lump files aren't the only thing the community shares around. Again, with the original release of Doom, there came the way of sharing custom levels via .wad files. A .wad file, short for Where's All the Data, is the file type used in Doom to store maps, sprites, patches, and things like that. When Doom released, it soon attracted a group of people who wanted to make their own sprites, level, and more for Doom. That's right, Doom basically popularized game modding. The fact that Doom has popularized so many things in the gaming community today is just really funny to me. Although it's sad he couldn't popularize showering in the fighting game community. Or not dating minors in the fighting game community. WADs are basically used to make whatever the hell you want. You want to play as a new character? Sure, go ahead, champ. You want new weapons and new maps? Of course you can. You want a different game built on the same engine? Whoa, you're getting really greedy here, man. I'm kidding, here's Chex Quest.
You think God stays in heaven because he too fears of what he's created here on earth?
Anyways, enough about my favorite Joker quote. let's check some Quest. Chex Quest is a Doom clone. Who would have thought? Using Doom's extreme modability, plenty of other developers were able to make their own games using the Doom engine. Thanks to this
Dark Ritual.
people have been able to make plenty of bullshit, from Sonic Robo Blast to the worst game of all time forever. Enough pussyfooting around, let's get to the serial game. Chex Quest is like if Overwatch had single player. This game looks like piss yellow and is ugly as sin, and nothing about the game makes sense. You play as a Chex warrior on the planet Bazoik, whatever, wearing armor that is literally a big f***ing piece of Chex, and you have to save other Chex people from the Flemoids with your Zorcher. You Zorch your enemies. What the f*** even is a Zorch? I hate this. This game is awful. Nobody should ever play this. 7 out of 10.
Overall, I think Doom is a landmark title for video games, not just the medium, but in pop culture as a whole. I don't think there's a single person out there who doesn't think about Doom when they think about first-person shooters.
I don't think the quintessential first-person shooter game is something like Black Ops or Battlefield or Halo. I genuinely think that the title should go to the first Doom game. For now though, I'm PhantomStar, and that's been my 2 cents.